Good morning. Here is an update on the Forex and CFD markets, including the Euro-dollar, pound-dollar, Bitcoin, and stock indices, plus much more. From Chris Forsick here at Milton Prime. What to expect from charts and technical analysis in the last few days of September and the start of October. So, without longer ado, let's take a look at this Euro-dollar breaking below the double bottom that took place at the 88.6 fib. Ultimately, that was not strong enough to hold, and we suspected that the second attempt to basically break the support at 88.6 fib would probably succeed. Usually, the 88.6 fib is a very deep fib, so if the first bounce does not deliver a reversal, the second attempt typically sees a breakout, and that's what happened. Price pushing through this 88 and the trend line for a break, pullback, and continuation, and we're seeing price move beyond that bottom now. So that bullish ABC or 1, 2, 3 pattern is certainly invalid, and price is definitely now in a downtrend. But of course, will price make it further, and how much further? Those are the next questions. Ultimately, when we look at the bigger picture, it seems to be that this is in a wave 3 or C. With the break below the bottom, this push up probably was a wave 4 of some type, a bit untypical wave 4, but that seems to be a correction within the downtrend. And price has now targets at 116 and 115.75 and 115.25, 115 for the downside. So price has not reached those levels yet. But if you look at lower time frames, you can see that on the 5-minute chart, price has already made a nice break, pullback, continuation pattern. And here also on the 5-minute chart, break, pullback, continuation seems to be headed lower now. And I think that will continue to push further downwards as we have a pretty clear breakout at this moment below this triangle pattern on the hourly chart as well. So with this break, I think that there will be a continuation down to 116 and 115.80 for the moment. There could be, of course, smaller pullbacks along the way on lower time frames, and if price hits resistance, for instance, if it moves down here and then makes a pullback into the zone, this could be again a resistance area with these basically bottoms broken and with these tops. So if price gets back into that zone, it could be a resistance. But for the moment, I think it will continue lower, hit the support level around 115.80, 116, maybe make a retracement up into this area, and then make a continuation lower down to 115, 115.50 area. Now that could be a psychologically strong round level, and the next question would be, how does price respond to that support zone on a daily perspective, on a daily chart? Because if there's a strong bullish candlestick pattern emerging at 115 or 115.50, that could indicate that the bearish swing is over and a bullish reversal might occur in this zone. Whereas if the daily candles remain weak or indecisive, then the downtrend could still be in control and price could continue to push lower. Or there could be a consolidation pattern emerging at 115, like for instance, triangle pattern. And that triangle could then break probably to the downside, but of course a breakout could occur to both directions. Typically to the downside if this is in a downtrend. So my view, bearish until those targets. Then at those targets, we'll need to see how price responds to that level to indicate whether there's more downside likely or a consolidation or a reversal. That remains to be seen and depends on the reaction at support. And until price reaches those targets, I think there could be minor pullbacks, but ultimately I expect a continuation to take place towards those targets. Pound USD, I think looks bearish too. We had basically a break above this resistance, but the target didn't get hit. Price made a little bit of upside, but ultimately broke through the support trend line, as you can see here. And as it broke through the support trend line, price failed to break this bull flag. It was a false breakout. This breakout right here, basically, and this break right here below the support, as you can see, kind of confirming that the upside did not take place, a bigger ABC did not take place to the 50 or 61.8 fib, and rather we had an immediate bearish breakout for a push down to the minus 272 target. Okay, so keeping an eye on those trend lines and horizontal levels, very important to distinguish the bearish push lower and the failed push up. In fact, that did not take place. The bearish push was very strong, very impulsive, as you can see. These candles just falling one by one, and a continuous decline with lower lows, continuous lower lows. We had a small little bear flag, but then again a follow through with a new lower low. But because price has reached the target and has reached the 135 psychological level, I think that this is not that great of a spot for either direction. Euro dollar looks bearish to me with the break, but now with the pound, be a little bit more careful because of the round level and target. And I think it makes more sense to look for a little bit of a pullback into 135.75, 136. If we get that pullback, I don't know, but that would be good and would make sense. And I think that could be a good resistance zone for a bearish bounce down to 134.25, for instance. 134.75, 134.25, maybe down as low as 133, just because of the fact that, yeah, basically we had a very strong bearish candle break. The A, B, C, D, E pattern and descending wedge pattern probably completed with a very shallow wave at the 38/50 fib zone and a solid breakout candle. But I think that some retracement of that candle, very mild retracement of that candle, is better than chasing a breakout right here, because it's in my eyes a little bit too close to major levels and too close to a bouncing spot. And I would rather wait for a little bit of a bounce up into 38.2 fib, probably anywhere between 135.70 and 136 and 136.20. I would say as max in my view. At least, and that could be a bouncing spot for continuation lower towards 134.70 and 134-ish. All right. So yeah, pound dollar also in a strong downtrend though, but prefer a pullback. All right, dollar yen did not make a flag right here, but made a small little consolidation zone here. And broke that consolidation zone for a push higher. But it was a very minor pullback. It was quite a strong momentum and follow through without really any significant pause. We're getting one maybe right now at the previous top here. So price certainly bullish, certainly challenging that top, but as expected, some kind of correction is taking place at that top, and I would probably rather wait for some pullback and bigger flag pattern here than this. I don't think that is big enough, but I would say if on a 4-hour chart, either if price gets into maybe some support zone in here, that could be interesting for a bounce up. Or if the hourly chart shows a triangle or bull flag pattern, that could indicate that a breakout higher could take place. But I would say that the breakout itself is not that interesting with such a strong resistance level. I think catching the bounce, if possible, might make more sense as there's more space before the breakout occurs. Yeah, but I would like to see a pattern more clearly emerging here, first of all. All right, so pretty hefty response at the resistance level as expected. Eventually, of course, this was a strong decline, a strong bounce as well, but therefore some profit taking after such a relatively strong push up is logical. There was a V-value reversal and right smack back into resistance, so I think it's logical that there's some kind of retracement. Now, equally logical, I think that there could be a bounce back in here because there's already a discount compared to this swing up. So some bounce up also seems logical to me, and some reversal here could take place. But space is getting smaller, in my view. So you have a support trend line here, and I think that it could go back to the previous top or maybe break it and go back into this 78.6 fib here. Ultimately, it didn't hit the 78.6 fib. That was my ultimate target for this upside, but it could do with the next rally. It could do that, but that could be very strong bouncing spot back for down. So here I think a bounce to the 78 and then a bearish reaction at that fib target, or the 88.6 fib. Same for the DAX, basically. It too strong down, strong up, retracement. Looks like it's a bouncing spot for a move back into those resistance zones, which could be a reaction back down again. And maybe back to support, which you could see maybe a bigger kind of consolidation pattern take place with these swings up and down. All right, Bitcoin made a bounce at the 50 fib, but was unable to break the resistance trend line. Now retesting that 50 fib. So far, we're not getting a lower low. We're staying above the 50 fib. So it could be a higher low. We have a triple bottom on the 4-hour chart. We have slightly higher low, or these two lows are higher than this low at least. And yeah, we are getting squeezed in between a 50 fib support and resistance trend line of this downtrend channel. Let's see which one breaks. I think the upside has a better chance of breaking, but if it does break below the 50 fib, that would change perspectives and we could see a fall down, in my view, to the 61, 78, maybe even 88.6 fib. Okay. So yeah, that's basically the downside perspective. It breaks above the downtrend channel. If it breaks above the downtrend channel, above the uptrend channel, excuse me, then we could see price testing these resistance levels and making it maybe all the way up to the -272 target. Ethereum, basically the same scenario, 50 fib versus trend line, or trend lines, better said, multiple trend lines, but here too a higher low. So break below the 50 fib, further downside, break above these trend lines, we could see maybe the first or second signs of a rally to come. Amazon, unable to hold those gains. There was a pretty good bounce at the 61.8 fib, but unable to break above the resistance trend lines and now actually making a new lower low. So next support level could be one of these two fibs, in my view, unless it breaks above the trend line. Silver still hanging at that previous bottom, making a consolidation pattern. To me, it still looks like it could bounce its support, but it surely is looking more shaky now due to the fact that it's unable to move away from the support. There is a doji last week. It's kind of glued at that support. I mean, there is more reward to the upside, back to the top of the range, but if it does break through the support zone, there's a lot of space till the next zone at around $19 to $20. So if it stays above this bottom, it could still be a bouncing spot, but if it breaks through that, there's good space to fall. Gold, yeah, it's tricky. It looked like a head and shoulders, but ultimately didn't. It looks like a falling wedge now, though. So that could aid the upside. And I would say a break above this resistance zone here could indicate some space for upside. With targets at the horizontal levels, like the triple top and the resistance trend lines for the moment. And then Euro odd, well, that's bounce at the 38, bounce at the 50 fib, bounce at the 61.8 fib, bounce at the trend line, bounce at the trend line. Really being squeezed in between these trend lines and such. And I would say probably better to look at the daily chart for direction. Break below this support trend line for downside, or a break above this trend line for upside. Until then, I would maybe just sit on the sidelines for a moment until there's a clear perspective. Too many trend lines. Need a break there. Euro pound. Yes, making the upside as expected. We discussed this in the live webinar that this is probably a bullish bouncing spot considering the ABC pattern and the strong upside. And indeed, big rally up here on the euro pound and getting close to the minus 272 target. If there is a flag, then I would expect to follow through to the minus 272 target, or even higher, maybe the minus 61.8. If it breaks above the minus 61.8 target, then it could be in a bigger wave 3. Otherwise, it could also just be a simple ABC pattern. So that depends on how price responds to those targets. All right, that's the update for today. Thanks for joining, and we'll be back soon. Wish everyone great trading. Cheers, bye-bye.